Hello and welcome to the Damm Slap Podcast, Season 2. Today, I am joined by no co-host, as Cedric Van Leyenhorst did not feel prepared, or at least well enough prepared, to join a political debate. However, I have a special guest. Andres Garcia Ramirez, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today, first of all.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, I appreciate your presence. So, you're a political science student.
Yes, I study at the Leiden Den Haag. I study political science and specialization in international relations and organizations.
Well, that's pretty complex, I'm not gonna lie. But that's the thing. Why did you choose Leiden out of all universities?
Truthfully to tell you, it was something that just popped up on my computer, and I was like, you know what? I like politics. I was really going for music, but it was my second choice. But as soon as I started doing politics, I really enjoyed it. So I'm happy I did choose Leiden.
But you're originally from Colombia, so
Yeah.
explain to me the pathing of your choice.
I'm Colombian, but I only lived there for about 2 years, and then I moved to Holland at like 2 to 3 years old. And most of my life, my mom has been working at the ICTY and in the UN, so she has really worked with international relations and stuff like that. And she's always taught me since I was smaller about international relations and politics and war and all these stuff that she studied, well not studied, but goes through since I was small. So I guess that just kind of stuck to me. And then once I saw something about politics and slowly started getting into it, I was really happy to just join politics and the idea of political science.
Are you one of those political science students who is aiming to change the political scene?
Yes and no. Let's say I really want to, but more I study of it, more I realize how hard it is to change it and how deep these connections are into corruption, into maluse of politics and maluse of things that are used for helping people are now being used to constrain people, and that's something that really hits me, and is also really annoying because you want to change the world, but all you learn is these things how they don't work.
Exactly.
How politics doesn't work.
I will say media students and political science students have one thing in common that they get blamed for, is the blame for wanting power.
That's very true. Yes, no, that is true. I hear that a lot. That I only do politics because I want to get power. That is some way true. In some way, if you do politics, you want some power because you want influence. You want to influence the people to change. You want the influence to people to move, progress. But it's an oxymoron. It's like you want to have the power, but you don't want to be filled with power and control everyone. You want to have the power to influence. It's the mixture between both. People forget that the power of being a political science student is to change people, not to have power and control people. That's the two very hard distinctions.
But there is one thing, it's like, I think to become a politician, you already have the inner struggles, which are essentially you fighting to remain true to yourself.
Absolutely.
And then the outer problems, which are you trying to relate to the people and be one of the people.
Absolutely, yeah. That is one of the things that's very hard as a politician, is trying to relate to people that you've never really related to. I can't relate to someone who's lived a very poor life or has had no house or been homeless, because I've never had that. I've lived a good life. I'm not super rich, but I've lived a good life, so it's really hard for me to really emotionally connect to these people and understand their problems. But it is something that we learn to do while studying politics.
But it must be really hard. Would you say that the best politicians are the ones that lived, a broader range of experiences?
Yes and no. The best politicians are the ones that don't want to be politicians in the first place. The best politicians are the ones that are put into that place because they had no other choice. That the population, the people who are trying to vote them in, they realized I can do some change. The people who do want to be politicians, who do want the power, are the ones causing the problems, because that want of power keeps you in the office wanting to make sure that you're re-elected every year, making sure that you use short-term objectives. You end up doing short-term objectives instead of long-term objectives, and that causes a big problem. It's the re-election that really causes a big problem for politicians.
I mean, that brings up one of the topics that I really wanted to talk about, which I am aware you are already aware of. So the political situation at the current moment in time in the United States of America, this is post riots, post storming the Capitol for the sake of democracy, to undermine democracy entirely. So I would want to ask you, how do you feel about that? What was your initial reaction?
America, you are a troublesome child. They have all good intention. The idea of democracy in the country, the idea of everyone should be able to do something with their lives is a great idea, but it's not actually used in practice. The politics in America is so corrupted, so it's so malused that it causes people to have more pain than they really accept. And I get the whole storming of the Capitol. It's completely disgusting and absolutely immoral and a terrorist act. Absolutely. But I also understand where this hatred comes from. It's from all the division that the American media, that the politicians use to cause them to be reelected. They divide people to have them be scared of someone else and then vote for them as they are the solution to their problem. And this causes a lot of politicians to just be terrible human beings. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, in the US, it does seem to me as there is such thing as a hype politics. So it's not about who has a good idea of what's going on in the country and who has a good presence internationally. It's about the guy who makes the funnier meme.
Yeah, it's the one who's more popular. It recently, thanks to Trump, now it's more of a meme thing, but politicians have been using it forever. Like, politicians have always said things that they don't believe just to get votes. Absolutely. Trump has just made it 10 times worse. He is the meme of politics. And, of course, that helped him a lot to get votes, because all these, I hate to say it, but uneducated Americans are the ones voting for him, because they are the ones who are taught you got enemies from top and bottom. Canadians are trying to destroy us with trade, and the Mexicans are sending all their rapists to us.
Yeah.
It's this demonizing of other people to cause them to get voted on, and that causes a big problem in American politics. I
mean, the problem that I hear from a lot of American citizens is that they found themselves with the elections. They found themselves in this paradigm where they had to choose either A or B, but A or B were worthless options to them.
Absolutely, it is a worthless option. But if you really believe that, then move country.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
That's second of all, and if you don't want to move country, then choose the best out of them too. And if you really think Trump is better than Hillary and Biden, doesn't matter which one you choose. Hillary, yeah, she might have been a bit, a bit sketchy. Biden, you never know. He's probably just following Obama's lead. Yeah. Absolutely, those things could be true. But then you look at Trump and you go, he's sexist, he's racist, he's corrupt. Most of his buildings in New York have been not proven, but they have been linked to like mafia corruption. Yeah. This just shows that he shouldn't be in office, but because of the whole meme culture and the whole idea of being a political meme has got him into power. Well, got him into power.
Yeah, ultimately that's the biggest concern that I have. Is look, in Italy we're not unfamiliar with this idea of high politics. I mean, Mussolini and as well, Berlusconi. They're this founders of this idea of
fascism.
Yeah, essentially, fascism, yes.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's in the US now it's taken this huge turn where there's people like the Antifa. Yeah. Or the Proud Boys, which are on the team of the guy.
The Proud Boys and Antifa are two very similar and different groups at the same time. The Antifa, yes, they are left-wing and they want freedom of all, but they are so unorganized. The group is so spread out, and there's so many different topics and so many different viewpoints that they don't have a strong base. Proud Boys and the right-wing media, they usually just say no. To take my guns away? No. Abortion? No. This? No. They always say no, and it's so much easier for them to just combine their forces just to say no. And of course, that's why it looks like these right-wing media are the ones that are right, because they have so many people following them. No, it's just because the left can't, for some reason, agree on one topic to go for.
I mean, the ultimate problem with the right's argument with, for example, gun control, right? How they say the Second Amendment is you have to protect your home and everything. That made sense a while ago, man. Yeah. Okay, look, I get it. You're in, I don't know, Iowa or something. You're 2 hours away from the nearest police station. I understand you need to protect yourself.
Absolutely understandable. But it's the idea that they don't see the problem with it. They have so many mass shootings. They have so many illegal gun sales that they go, yeah, but then we just need more guns to defend each other. I understand the reasoning, but the reasoning is so of the realistic point of view that it's an archaic world that you should only take care of yourself and everyone else is against you. Right now in the world we live in, it's absolutely like that. But
it does seem
if
that way.
Everyone is able to understand that is not the way we're supposed to live, it can change. And people, it doesn't mean we have to take all your guns away.
Yeah.
It just means better regulation on what guns you can get. Better regulation on who can get the guns. Better background checking, because right now they have background checks, but they're very weak. They're not institutionalized and controlled, especially with the mental health problem. They don't have any real backing for if someone wants to get a gun and they have mental health problems. They don't have real research on that, because these big American companies, well, not big American, the NRA and gun rights activists have really pushed for government to really like restrain the possibility of more background checks, which is ridiculous. It sounds
wrong.
It sounds so ridiculous until you realize that NRA is not a activist company. It's a way to sell guns. It's making people scared of more people makes them buy more guns.
Exactly.
NRA has a whole TV show for selling guns. They have women buying guns with the handbags and stuff, and it's ridiculous. It's how has the NRA become a way of pro-gun movement and not what's it called, a non-profit organization, which is ridiculous. They have a TV show. They have more money. They spend a lot of money in lobbying. Not as much as other companies, but they do spend a lot of money on lobbying.
They have some presence.
Yeah, they have a lot of presence and they have a lot of power. And it's ridiculous how they have come to that. They are a rights activist group. Great. It's an activist group for a certain belief of people. Absolutely. But they have become so powerful in the way that they are manipulating people to buying guns for fears that don't exist.
I mean, the ultimate thing is that in Australia, I think it was 1990. Yeah, I think Waterboy. Can you fact check that? But that's the thing. 1990, apparently, the Australian regulations dictated that it was not allowed to own a gun anymore. Now, what happened is the rates of murders and everything dropped heavily, right? And that's the thing. I don't know if it's an Australian thing, but they just kind of went with the idea of, okay, well, it's not allowed anymore. GG.
No,
you know, it's like that.
Australians have the right way of doing things. When something is causing a problem, they shut it down immediately.
I mean, it's...
And everyone might fight for it, but you know what? They say it's like that, and people get used to it. It's the same thing as saying before we used to have...
1996, my apologies, 1996.
They used to have, the law was you can drive 150 kilometers an hour on the road. And they changed it because, well, it's quite dangerous.
Exactly. I mean, look, you're not doing anyone, you're not putting anyone in danger if you're a great pilot. However, you're kind of assuming that you're a great pilot.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
what I'm saying.
You're assuming that you can drive at 150 and with zero problems, which is not true.
Like, not everyone is Max Verstappen.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you know, it's
Even
like...
Max Verstappen, he crashes his car.
Yeah, he did.
It's law is a very difficult way of...
It is, but again, I mean, we talk about the US like it's such a far concept to us because it is far geographically and social. I mean, culturally, absolutely opposed.
Europe is the most culturally alike to America, but that is not true. America is its own culture and its own rights. They live in their own world. The Americans, they know America, and that's it. They see the world as an outer side thing that they don't want to go to. America is their world. America is their strength. America is their country and is the only country that matters in the world.
It is.
Well, okay, look, right now America is a very important country, but it is not the only one.
No, it's not the only one playing the game.
Europe needs a bit more power. Europe needs to build its own army. Europe needs to get more regulating on what they want to do. Because a lot of European countries are, well, they're not following what the Europe people tell them to do. So it's falling apart.
It is quickly. But that's the thing. A lot of people, especially in the country in which we reside at this moment in time, which is the Netherlands, they have right now the anti-COVID riots, right? Where they're rioting on the streets to promote the idea that the government cannot restrict the freedom of people, right? Now, the thing is, a lot of people that I've spoken to recently have said that that is a movement that is translated from the American movement. What do you think about that?
Yes, and yeah, absolutely. They saw the Americans do it. They thought, why not? But it's just, I understand why they want to do it. It seems very ridiculous to have a night like ban of being outside, even though usually at night no one's really out, and it really only affects the young kids who remember when we were younger.
Yeah,
we
people like us.
We wanted to chill at night outside, and of course it's annoying for them. Although rioting the way that they're doing it, absolutely wrong. Also, the other thing about those riots is that once the Schilderwijk and South Rotterdam were once rioting, all this news media came out that these young Moroccan kids are all the problem and all that. They forget that this all started with Bagheera movements and right-wing movements and white nationalist movements in Enschede and other cities in Holland, which started this whole movement of rioting at night, which is ridiculous.
But they tried to put it on race, just like a lot of the US issues that are currently being proposed, is that they try to throw it on ethnicity or gender or all this. You know, it seems correct at face value. That's what I mean. It's like, hey, look, you deserve your freedom. It's like, oh yeah, at face value it sounds good, but then you're like, yeah, you're killing thousands of people.
That's the thing. They want to reserve the freedom, but they forget that the way to reserve the freedom is to stay home, get the vaccine, get people safe, and then we can have our freedom. That's how you fight for your freedom. Not causing damage to a hospital, not setting cars on fire. That's not fighting for freedom. When there is time to fight for freedom, when you have something like Poland where they're restricting abortion laws, like that's strong. When you have Russia having people being arrested for no reason, that's when you should protest hard. That's when you should fight for your freedom. That is real fight for freedom, not for because they're telling you to stay home at night. Yeah, it sucks. It really sucks for all of us. I can't get a haircut. As you can see my hair, I can't get a haircut. It sucks. But it's not really restricting my freedom. I can still say Mark Rutte is a piece of shit. Yeah. I can still go around saying that people are not supposed to be here. I can say a lot of things, and that's freedom. They misrepresent the idea of being stuck and freedom, and the ability of freedom.
I mean, what do you think? I have this idea of freedom that is, I guess, uncommon, because I believe that ultimate freedom is anarchy, in the sense that if you tell me that, hey, you're free, absolutely free, that means I am allowed to steal, rob, never pay taxes, rape, harass, and do all the illegal shit that people say.
Most subjects we call trade-offs is you trade off freedom for security. The idea of the Americans were following everyone's phone taps and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone's so pissed off about that, but you don't remember 5 years ago before that, everyone's saying, get these terrorists, get these people, doesn't matter how, get these. And then as soon as the American people, well, the American government does something to stop it, and it's not exactly freedom, like, good. They get all pissed at it. It's like, well, come on. It's like, you guys were asking for a way to fix it, and then suddenly you guys are mad about the way they're fixing it. Yes, they should have been more open about it, about the whole NSA and about following it. Absolutely. But are they already interested in what porn videos you're watching?
Yeah, nobody cares.
They don't care. They care if you're searching up how to make a bomb. They care about if you're searching up how to get to Syria through flights through Turkey. That's what they care about, and that's what they're looking at, not what porn site you're on.
Exactly. And I mean, one thing about that, like, look, I can tell you, police officers are expensive. Like, you have to sustain their livelihood. So if you think that someone is spending their time looking through your camera, like the webcam, like, come on, man.
The FBI agent behind the camera. Look,
an FBI agent is worth a lot.
Someone could hack into your camera and be looking through your camera. Absolutely.
Someone else, not the FBI.
The FBI ain't gonna do it. The FBI don't care. The FBI don't care what porn you're watching. The FBI don't care what shoes you're buying. They don't care. Like, they care once you start searching how to hit America, how to travel into America with a bomb. That's when they care.
But that's the thing. It's like, okay, but you see, if I were right on one side of the political spectrum, I could argue that, yeah, but what if I want to build a bomb and do it in my own properties? Am I so wrong?
Yes. If you want to build a bomb, why do you need a bomb? I'm sorry, but why do you need a bomb?
You can buy a C4, I think.
No, yeah, well, you can buy explosive material, but it's the same thing. It's like, why do you need it? Why do you need an AR rifle? You want
my freedom, yeehaw!
You want to protect your house. You want to buy a shotgun. Shotguns are the best thing. To protect your house, you have 2 slugs. Your first 2 slugs are buckshots, bird shots. Those don't kill someone, but they will pepper.
Yeah, they will exactly, and it will hurt.
2 shots first. Yeah. Then you have a buckshot, which is a big hole that makes it. That's a real self-defense gun.
It is.
An AR rifle. That's a killing machine.
That's a war weapon.
That's a killing machine. That sends bullets this big. Well, the bullets this big, but the actual that they send. Pistols send something like this. Either way, they're both deadly.
Yep.
Thing is, one is meant for killing, and the other one's meant for self-protection. It's 2 very different things.
But that's the thing. It's like, you know what's really weird? I saw this comedy bit by, I think it was Bill Burr, who made this comedy bit about, like, how, you know, it's like you have a 33 and you shoot, and you're fine. You shoot a bigger gun and your ears... So what self-defense is that?
It's ridiculous. It's like, they say, yeah, I need all my rifles for self-defense. And, like, if someone breaks into your house and you're going to go try to unlock your rifle out of the thing, you're going to get shot before you can get your rifle. It's the idea of that we need guns to protect ourselves. No, what you need is good paid jobs. What you need is good education. What you need is good housing. What you need is infrastructure, investing in the population, so people don't have to rob your house, so people don't have to come into your house and steal shit. Though it doesn't mean it's the ideology that to prevent crime we must fight crime. No,
you're not Batman.
You prevent crime by making sure that the population don't need to go to crime to survive. Because a lot of people, they are the people who just go to crime because they feel like this is the best thing they can do and it's great and oh my god, I'm going to be Pablo Escobar. No. There are people who go to crime because that's the only thing that they can do. Because they can't get a job. Because maybe they're black or maybe they're Hispanic and the jobs don't want them.
Or they're women. Or there's a lot of race and they don't want sexism.
Them. And they need some way to get money. Everyone needs to survive and America's not giving them the possibility. So of course they're going to go to crime. It's the only way that they can make some kind of a living. Keep their children like fed. Of course they're going to go to crime. If America doesn't invest in education, in housing, in infrastructure, in got child care. If
Yeah,
you can't
yeah.
invest in child care, how are the parents supposed to go work and make money when their kids can't be taken care of? And if they aren't getting taken care of and they're at home, what do you think they're going to do? Sit at home and watch TV? No, they're going to go out and play with their friends. Suddenly they turn 15 and their 18-year-old friend gives them a gun and goes rob a store, and then they get $20,000. Like, okay, no.
Yeah, and you
they
think
get
that's big money.
and
No,
then
no.
that's, oh my god, I can do this for the rest of my life and I'll be rich. Of course, that's what they learn because they have no education, no real family.
Yeah, I mean, especially, well, in Europe, I feel like...
Europe is the same thing.
Yeah, but guns, like, guns are such a far concept.
You look at the UK. UK has mass stabbing thing.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's getting stabbed there. But why? Because the UK isn't investing in education. UK is not investing in housing. UK is not investing in in the population that's having a hard time. And yeah, they're doing way better than America. I'm not they're doing way better than America. But it's causing these people to lead to having to go to crime. Of course, there's the whole idea that drill rap and it's a whole circular thing. But this circle thing wouldn't exist if people had enough money in their hands to survive. If they had enough money, then they wouldn't need to go to crime.
I mean, look, I'll say one thing. Like, I listen to UK grime. The most exciting thing I do a day is go do groceries, okay? So, like, let's be honest here. Like, I'm not a superhero. I'm not fighting crime. I'm not creating or inciting hatred. Like, there are ways around it. As I mentioned before, in 1996, as my water boy mentioned. 1996. That was when Australia just seized, people weren't allowed to have guns anymore. And as outrageous as it seemed, like, even thinking about it, I was like, oh, if I had my guns and then someone came in and was like, hey, give me those guns, they're out, I would be salty. None of them really were. There were no movements that were severe enough to create riots. However, I think as soon as you start putting things on, like, but it's my right, it's my Second Amendment. Dude, amendment, the meaning of the word amendment is to amend, not to...
The American Constitution is so flawed, yet it's the basis of a real good democracy, yet it has been flawed since the beginning. This Constitution was made 200-something years ago. Yeah, we can't be following the same thing we're following 200 years ago. If we were still doing that thing, we'd still be eating human beings. And we'd still have Mayans eating human beings. Come on. It's like... also this conservative idea that they have to conserve their pride. No! Conservative, I'm sorry, but the idea of progression. It's the idea of how to move forward in life is progress. And all these conservatives are saying, no, we have to conserve our values, No, it's called progression.
I think there's a really important thing to remember, especially when you're discussing the political spectrum, is that, and I learned this recently, that's why I think it's really worthwhile, is that you need both sides of the spectrum, because one side wants the liberal idea, so change, they want change for the better, and the other side is like, no, I'm good where I'm at. So one side is useful when you're in the deep hole, right? So you need something to change, so you need the liberals, you need the left, or whatever you want to call them, and then if you're doing great, you're going to go to the conservatives and be like, oh, I'm chilling, I'm good. So it's like you need both. I don't know why they antagonize each other so much.
It's because they can't compromise. The right don't want to compromise, the left don't want to compromise. The right say no to, let's say, transgender toilets. The left say yes to transgender toilets. And then they can't compromise. They can't say, okay, how about we just have non-sexual toilets? Like, everyone can go in the same toilets. That's simple as that, but they don't want to compromise. The left wants exactly their transgender toilets so they can have someone from transgender to go in there. And the right, they don't want they just want female and male. No one wants to compromise because no one wants to lose, and that's been the big problem recently.
The problem is that by doing, for example, the gender neutral toilet, and then the male toilet, the female toilet, and the transgender toilet, then you realize that you're classifying these people. You're putting them in a box. They're human beings, just like every one of us. So
it's the idea that this is what a lot of right people say is like, why do you keep giving laws to these gay people? These people who are gay for protecting them, even though they're human beings like everyone else. And it's the idea. It's like, well, yeah, we get it that you're confused that these people need special protections, but if you were really one of these people, you would understand why they need these special protections. They can't go down the street in Russia and be happy, because if a gay person went down the street in Russia holding hands with another gay man, they'd probably get beat the shit out of them. I'm not gonna lie. They wouldn't have a happy time here. Especially if you go down Schilders, like here, as a woman wearing a short skirt, you're either gonna be whistled at, like cat whistled, or called a whore. There's special laws because these things happen. Men don't get a special law for being called a whore. Why? Because it doesn't really happen.
Because it doesn't matter ultimately. Like, I don't feel offended
if the right are like, why don't we get the same laws? It's because, do you have a problem with people calling you a whore? No? Then why do you need the law?
Exactly. I mean, I feel like it's weird, especially with like security laws, or laws that are generally based around security or civilian securities, because it's like, okay, look, if I am a white man in power, right? typical.
Yeah.
And I'm just there and I'm making laws according to what my beliefs are. How am I to understand the feelings of a woman of color who lives in a neighborhood where I have never even been?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's...
Like, who am I to legislate their livelihood?
Previous representative of Boston, of Bronx, of the Bronx. He was a white man, Democrat, who's never been opposed. He was always running for mayor, running for representative, but he was never being opposed because no one ever run against him. And
so it's winning the race because you're racing alone.
Because no one was running against him, but he's a white man in charge of the Bronx. I'm sorry, but the Bronx is filled with Latinos and blacks, and it's a completely different culture.
Should be represented.
And he's the one representing them. How is that possible? Now it's AOC, the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is now representing. And how did she get voted? Well, she was like, okay, let me go against this Democrat. Tell everyone, well, this white man has been causing so many problems in the Bronx. Let me change that for you. And no one ever knew that. No one of the Bronx knew that this guy was representing them.
Imagine that.
And why is that? Education. Education is one of the things that lacks in America. It's one of the things that big lack in America. It's the root of all problems.
Exactly, but like, I don't want to cite someone despicable, so I'll cite someone who actually cited this guy. Yeah. So, for example, Julius Caesar. Or actually, let's go a little bit further in future. Anyone, if you search up anyone of power, they will say that education is the way you get to the people. Absolutely. So you want to change the future, you go through education. Someone as despicable, I think even Adolf said that, so that gives you an idea. Someone so despicable can arrive to such a normal conclusion.
How did Adolf want to change everyone into being
anti-Semitic
and these things? By education, by educating them to this ideal.
Yeah, that was terrible. Flawed ideals, but
it worked.
It worked for his people because they did it.
If you change it around, and you educate people into liberal ideals, and you educate men not to be to see women as objects, and women not to see men as
or as luxuries.
Every man as a rapist. It's the two sides of the coin. It's education. It's the idea that all these countries the countries that are falling back are the ones who aren't investing in education or aren't investing in their future. And yeah, that's a big problem in America.
Yeah, I think it's really bad. It's getting to the point where people who think they're modern and like they're bringing up new ideas, they end up bringing ideas that end up coming up like 400 years ago, and then you're like, okay, let's tune it down a little bit, and you try to educate these people. But the problem is that when you're so antagonized against or like polarized, then you forget that the whole spectrum is necessary to really understand society.
But you have to remember that extremists on both sides are not the way to go.
They're probably wrong.
Extremism in any way is terrible. Extremism on the right, extremism on the left. You can't have extremism. I can't.
Extremism, yeah.
Extremism, yeah.
Yeah.
Those two things, having that is very, very bad. But they exist, and how do we deal with them? By compromising, by causing these extremists to realize, okay, maybe what I'm going for isn't exactly plausible. But if we move just a bit closer to the center, I still have my ideals, you still have yours, but we agree. Thing is, they don't want to do that. Extremists believe, no, it's either my way or the highway.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that doesn't work like that. World doesn't work like that. World's never worked like that.
I think the biggest problem is that they see politics as a game of chess where you're playing against your opponent. But the problem is that they want to set up every move that they can make to lead to their own victory. The problem is that there is no such thing as victory in politics.
There is no victory. The victory is progression. The victory is moving forward, having your population live happily, represent them good, make them live good, have a good, happy life. That's victory. Victory isn't being present. Victory isn't being the most powerful. Victory is, even if you're the most smallest congressman in the Congress, you're the most weakest person ever there, you have no power. If you're able to push your voters' voice into the Congress, that's already all you have to do. Just push that voice in. But representatives don't. Representatives don't listen to their electorate. They only listen to the people who pay them.
Exactly,
and
the
that's
lobbyists.
The problem. The whole lobbyist idea is a big problem. It's legalized bribe. It's a legalized corrupt.
It is.
It's legalized
it really
corrupt.
is.
I'm sorry, but lobbying is legalized corrupt.
I mean, thinking about it, if a gun manufacturer finances and lobbies for a political party, that means that they're going to incite wars. Yeah, no, because that's what you need guns for. Unless you're going to
It's the same thing as the defense ministry having so many different competitive gun manufacturers, weapon manufacturers, or defense manufacturers. All these different ones are competing to make newer things, although we don't need new weapons. What we need is new defense methods. We don't need new planes. We don't need new tanks. We don't need that. What we need is good education, good infrastructure. If the military wants money, okay, then send the military to be protecting your home, not going and invading a different country.
Yeah, and trying to expatriate democracy. What was it?
No, to influence the world to democratize. They misconceive that democracy and communism are two very opposite things. You can have democracy and communism at the same time.
Somewhat.
No, you can have. Look, you can vote for your electeds, absolutely. But communism is an economic structure. Communism is the idea that everyone gets the same. The government spreads out that wealth. But you can still have democracy. You can still
everyone would be allowed to vote.
And that's the perfect world. The idea of communism being everyone gets the same, everyone lives happily, and you vote for your leaders. Yeah, we haven't seen a true communist country because the first communist country was Russia. Well, the USSR, but they
didn't allow to vote, was it?
They were communism with autocracy. They were communism, and every communist country we've seen is with autocracy. Most democratic countries we see is capitalism, but what does capitalism lead to?
Look, I believe in capitalism because I believe that human beings are essentially flawed. Therefore, we are greedy. We are greedy,
and capitalism just incites egotism.
Yeah, I mean, it allows you to use your skill set to arrive to a better conclusion.
Capitalism doesn't allow you to use your skill set. Capitalism allows you to push as hard as you can to get the most as you can from whatever you can.
Yeah.
Communism actually lets you go for what you want to be. If you want to be a doctor, you can be a doctor and not worry about being a shit doctor and be getting paid. Like, if you want to be an artist, you're still going to be able to live in a house, you're still going to be able to have a car, but you can still be an artist and do what you want.
Like, the beautiful thing about communism is that it respects all fields of work equally. That's the one thing that capitalism clearly does not. Because
capitalism just leads to you wanting to have more and more and more.
I mean, if you're a teacher for elementary school, you're a nobody to the society. But if you're a university lecturer, then you must know something. I mean, it is true, but it's ultimately flawed.
Wants everyone to win. You can't have everyone winning. Why? Because if you win, that means someone
else has lose.
Yes, you can't ever win without someone else losing. It doesn't matter how hard you try, you always win with someone and someone else loses. So America is saying everyone has the same possibility to make it.
The American dream.
They don't. The American dream is flawed from the beginning off. The American dream only works for white old men.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I will back that up.
Now it's been more spread out to white people, maybe some rich black people,
who are like.
Pretty much it.
That's the thing, the worry, I guess, but I guess I don't want to stay on US too much because, I mean, the US is just depressing as a whole, but there's one thing that I do want to bring up about, still related to the political spectrum, is about the Navalny case in Russia at this current moment in time. Navalny, to give people, actually, you can briefly introduce the idea.
Navalny was part of the government of Russia. Let's just put it this way, Russia has a very party structured thing, so that you are allowed to vote there, and you're allowed to vote for different parties.
Yes.
Unlike China and other countries, you're allowed to vote for different parties. Yet all of the parties that are allowed to be running are all under Putin's control.
Yes.
Navalny's party was the only one that wasn't under Putin's control, and they were kicked out of being able to run. Then Navalny fled Russia because, well, Putin told him, "I'm going to kill you if you don't leave." And then he left Russia, and then they poisoned him in his underwear.
Yeah, actually.
And he stayed in Germany for a bit while he was recovering. And I guess from what my perspective view is that he's seen the world change in this whole protesting way, and he went back to Russia seeing that the world is in a very decisive moment. It's either we go completely right-wing and complete conservative idea, or we go left-wing. And this has caused a lot of people Navalny has realized this, and Navalny decided to go back to Russia. As soon as he landed, he was arrested. They went straight to jail.
For trial, was it?
They sent him a fraud trial. Complete shitty trial, complete bullshit.
Yeah, it was made up. It clearly was.
It says here that he was accused of slandering a World War II veteran who took part in a promotional video.
No, but that was that was just an opinion. Again, that's an opinion.
That's another fabricated evidence that Putin created, because Putin sees Navalny as a big threat. And Putin acts like he doesn't see him as a big threat, but he knows he's a big threat because Navalny is really pushing mobilization of the country. And you saw, as soon as he was arrested and he told people, go protest, hundreds and thousands of people went to protest.
That's one thing that I do want to bring up to the people, is that so Navalny was famous for this quote that he said he was a free our homeland from a handful of thieves, right? Absolutely. Which was essentially against Vladimir Putin as a whole. However, after getting poisoned by the Novi Shore nerve agent. It's a terrible way to die, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know. But that's the thing, it's like he gets poisoned, he starts to fight for freedom, and then he tells his people, as soon as he was being arrested, there's a video of him not inciting
No,
violence.
No. He incited the riots. Absolutely.
No, but he didn't
incited the
incite.
protests.
He said
incited
we
the protests.
must do something about this handful of thieves.
And like I told you, rioting for being locked down at 9 p.m. Bullshit.
Yeah,
rioting because your president has now recently been able to stay president for the rest of his life because he made a new law that he can be president for the rest of his life.
Yeah, essentially,
is corrupt, is giving money to everyone else but the people. Then yes, go fucking protest, go burn down the houses because you don't own those houses. Putin owns those houses. Why would you care if you have nothing to lose? Why would they care? And of course, he incited this whole protest thing, and thousands of people have been arrested. But that shows you that Putin is scared.
Yes.
He is scared of Navalny. He is scared of what Navalny could do, and he's doing everything to push him down. And the European Union has seen this and has pushed Navalny a lot.
Yeah,
Navalny
but I
has
mean,
been pushed a lot from the European Union.
If anyone had to back him up, it would have to be the European Union.
Europe has condemned Russia's. Oops.
Yeah, right. We can. We
They've
did.
condemned the crimes that they've been that he's been said he's done. America, I think, condemned them. Biden had a call with Putin the other day, and apparently it was one of the.
Oh, my apologies.
Waterman.
Sorry. Yeah, Waterboy is having a day today.
Sorry, I forgot where I was.
No, but you were saying that essentially the U.S. condemned. Well, they didn't condemn the U.S.
They condemned the
Russia,
imprisonment of Navalny. Absolutely, and it's the idea that Russia and U.S. are fighting against each other.
Which I think is now really flawed.
Everyone says we live in a unipolar world where America is a big power and everyone else follows America.
Waterboy coming in with a fact check.
What is it?
You know how you said that Putin extended the legislation?
Yeah.
Apparently it wasn't for the rest of his life.
No, but for 40 years plus, right?
12 years apparently.
What?
12 years. Yeah,
Yes.
but then again, it was 4 years, and then he raised it to 8 years, and then he raises it to 12 years, and as soon as he goes again, he's going to raise it again for another 12 years.
No, but look, that's how politics works in a corrupt environment.
That's how politics works. That's how. And if he doesn't make a new thing like he did in 2011, or whenever he did become president, he went prime minister, and then he put his prime minister as president to fall in for him, and he still pretty much Putin was still in power. Putin has been in power since.
I mean, we all saw his mansion, right? We all saw it. I mean, it's definitely going to be in the highlights channel. There's definitely going to be the edit with the mansion photos. So if you guys want to see that, definitely go check it out. The thing is, with that mansion, it's not meant for a human being. It's not meant for a city to
I'm sorry, but a
It's
man
way
who
too
earns
big.
100,000 a year is able to build a mansion. No, not buy. Build a mansion of 1 point something billion.
Yeah, it was actually ridiculous amounts of money. Like if you,
it's
it
a
will be
ridiculous
up.
amount of money. And how is that possible?
It's not.
It's all corruption, and all these people are like. Navalny is right. I'm sorry, but Navalny is right. He is corrupt. He is evil. Yet Putin is still way smarter than most of the leaders of other countries, and it's causing a lot of problems around the world. So yeah, I gotta say Navalny. I don't see him doing any difference. I do see him causing a lot of eruption in Russia.
Like riling up the
people. But I don't see anything changing anytime soon because Putin has done everything to consolidate power. He has done everything to make sure that he cannot be removed from power. That he is to control everyone. He went from being controlled by the oligarchs to controlling the oligarchs. He was so smart that he was able to make sure that these people thought they were in power, and then suddenly in a year he was in power with them, and now they all have to follow what he says, as we know from one of our friends being.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Connection.
But that's the thing. It's like, okay, so the problem with that entire situation in Russia at this current moment in time is that, like, okay, look, it's like as if a king, right, the king of a country, is now being threatened by one of its civilians.
No, absolutely.
Right? It's ridiculous because if you think about it, it's like politics should be done by every individual.
That is politics. Politics is the idea that the leader always changes, that there is election.
But that's what brings, what stabilizes the polarization of...
The idea of stabilization. Everyone says that democracy is stabilized. It's not stabilized. The idea of election years, of having only 4 years, of election cycle or 8 years max. The idea of having to be re-elected is a problematic idea because you are looking for short-term aspects. If you look at, but China, he doesn't look at short-term aspects. He looks at long-term aspects. Why? Because he's in power for life.
Yeah, essentially,
And I'm going to say this: China is one of the most advanced countries in the world, and would be the best country in the world if it wasn't for their Uyghurs or Uyghur concentration camps. Their their arrests without warranted arrest, and their maltreatment of people. If there wasn't for those three things, China would be one of the would be the most powerful country in the world and would be leading us right now.
But what about the what was it, the Big Brother's
That's the thing.
idea
China has solved crime. I'm sorry, but China has solved
Yes,
crime.
but it's also solved the entire idea of freedom.
Absolutely. What did I tell you about trade-offs? You can't have full security with full freedom. You need to have a trade-off. And China has done a perfect trade-off that you get if you cross the
if you jaywalk, you get points deducted.
You get points deducted. They have solved crime in a way. Yet this infringes on freedom. Of course, if Xi Jinping is the only leader in there and he's the one controlling all the people, it's a problem. It's a big problem because he's an autocrat. He's the one killing. He's the one calling concentration camps. But if you have someone else in power who's reasonable and they can see everyone who's doing crime, then it makes the idea of cameras everywhere. It makes you feel safer. You're not going to get robbed on the street.
I mean, ultimately, the idea is that if you're a good, law-abiding citizen, you will be safe. No, ultimately, it's like, hey, what the party considers a good citizen will be...
the one-party system. China would be great if it wasn't a one-party system. If they've done great things to... How much people? It's like 300 million people who have been raised out of poverty.
Oh, actually, I saw the stats. It was insane.
They did some shitty tricks in the World Trade Center, and they were able to make sure that their country was seen as a developing country, even though they were quite rich. So it is a big problem. But China is still one of the most powerful countries, and it has done great things in their own country.
Exactly. I mean, look, ultimately, what I would like to raise to the audience is that it is extremely important to remember that you and I, for example, are not from China. I have never had the pleasure of being in China.
Don't get this wrong. I am saying things from what I've
studied. No. They know. You better know.
I know Chinese people, and they tell me, look, we live happily. We live great. We live great lives. Yeah, they might track every movement that we have, but because we live a happy life, we're fine. But then you go to the Uyghurs. As soon as they say that, assalamu alaikum, they get arrested.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the idea that, okay, so you release freedom for less crime. Okay, that's great. But then now you're using that less freedom to imprison people who are not supposed to be imprisoned. The Uyghurs, I can't say their names. It's
a hard name. I don't know how you did it the first time.
I don't know. It's a Muslim minority in China, but in the Xinjiang
region,
province,
the province.
They are the majority, and they are being put into concentration camps. Millions. There is systematic rape of women there. There is systematic what's it called?
Abuse.
Like sterilization.
Oh my God.
Forced abortions. These are things that are happening in these Uyghur camps, China would be great if it wasn't for these camps. If it wasn't for Xi Jinping has the idea that he needs to make sure that no one can go against him. So these Uyghurs started causing problems, and he immediately started setting them all in concentration camps. That makes China look like a terrible country. Although the way that they build up the country was one of the greatest things that they've ever done. They've raised so many people out of poverty. It's one of the greatest.
Can I just say that from the 1970s until now, the Democratic Republic of China has managed to become the most powerful, outputting country in the world.
Has any European country raised anyone out
Absolutely
of poverty?
No.
Has anyone in Africa? Has anyone really gone and helped Africa
in any continent? Yeah.
No, okay, we can disagree and agree on how their medical ship was outside of Africa, and it was only really there to.
And then it was manipulated.
Simplest motion.
Yeah.
But they're doing more than the Europeans are doing. Europeans go there and then they promise them aid, and then they give them aid, and where does that aid go? To the pockets of the white and the rich people. I'm sorry, but the Europeans keep saying that we do so much, and then China does one thing that isn't great, but they're doing more. But
let's remember one thing. I mean, the hosting nation is represented vastly by one corporation, which is called Shell, which is essentially a company that the Netherlands, which is a company that essentially exploits blood money to make money for white privileged men.
Let's put it this way: the Netherlands and big companies have been interconnected for years. Why? Because the Netherlands has this. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that we
can speculate. This is a podcast. This is not an interview.
Back from the people from the countries that they're in. So if Shell's working in Nigeria and they lose money or they lose money on taxes, Holland pays those taxes back to them. It's ridiculous.
They don't even pay fuel tax. They don't pay any sort of fuel.
It's ridiculous the amount of things that happen here.
It's quite ridiculous, especially if you think that it's like colonization was cool until it wasn't, but they still reap the rewards.
Yeah.
So it's like ultimately the joke is still the same.
Yeah, no, colonization has been one of the biggest problems in the world. It has caused a lot of countries to be so
I mean, look at what the UK did in all of its colonies.
Okay, so let's take UK as an example. They were in India. They destroyed a lot of India, and then they made them follow what
exploited labor for quite cheap.
Exploited India to the max. Now, India is one of the most richest countries in the world, and the UK, now that they left the EU, they are trying to move back into India and to invest back into India because they still have connections there.
To have some sort of involvement.
And India is not letting them. Modi is not letting them. And
the fear of having it.
And the UK is like, how dare you? And I'm sorry, but you colonized them, killed a bunch of them, and then they're saying, I don't agree with Modi. Modi has done terrible things to Muslims as well in India. That's another problem that has happened. But if he's saying no to the UK because they colonized it, well,
that's a
sorry, UK, what? You fucked up in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that essentially ultimately play a role in the outcome, or at least the way it's unfolding, the way that the scenarios are unfolding.
The thing is that Europe has zero say in what's happening. They should have zero say in what's happening in Africa. In pretty much anywhere in the South, Europe should not be saying anything. They should be just investing and making sure that they do what they tell them to do. Because why? Because the EU fucked over pretty much everyone in the South. Then they stopped doing it, and then America came and fucked everyone in the South.
I mean, and there were many wars fought over
everywhere, anywhere. Yeah. Okay, so it's the idea of the global South. It's everyone from like the South down. It has been pretty much misused by the West, and it's ridiculous amount of misusing by the West.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. It's such a that's the thing about colonization is just such a sensitive topic that I don't want anyone to get riled up. Ultimately, these are our opinions.
I don't mind.
No, if anyone wants to discuss the opinions, please do comment. If anyone wants to
discuss about colonization with me, I'm fine. But it's just that you need to understand that colonization was one of the biggest problems that happened in our world, and it is still causing problems in this world.
Many people would disagree and say that it was a development for the world.
Absolutely not.
Okay, no, I'm just raising points. I'm just the host.
Middle East and China were way more advanced than most of the Europeans were at that time.
That's true. They had paper before we did.
And then the Europeans came in and destroyed everything they had. Everything. The Middle East had one of the best science mobilizations in the world. It's one of the best mathematical things in let's say the 1600s. And then the Europeans came in and screwed them all up. No one really cares about.
And on a topic of money, I wanted to cut to this. Yeah, don't worry. On the topic of money, I was gonna get to the GameStop. So I'm gonna quickly explain what GameStop did in their time, or what in the current scenario, what occurred. So GameStop, essentially, to know the GameStop story, you need to know three things. Essentially, the Wall Street Bets subreddit, which is essentially a subreddit where people bet on the Wall Street developments, and it turns out, it's like they make bets against or with the stock market. The second component is GameStop, a retailer for video games, and the third component is the stock market. So just so you guys know, in the stock market, if you think a company is going to fail, you can somewhat bet against.
You have to be careful because the stock market and the betting stock market are two different things.
Yeah,
you can stock market in investing money, and if a company makes money, you make money. If a company loses money, you lose money. There's another way to invest in that. Recently, apps have been involved where you can bet if a company is going to raise or a company is going to go down. And a lot of these Wall Street giants have said that these small companies are going to go down. Well,
yes.
They're clearly going to go down. So they're investing all this money and they're getting money from it. And all these Reddit users invested into GameStop saying, you know what? Screw the Wall Street. Screw them.
Exactly.
We're going to invest that it's going to go up, and we're going to keep investing. And when they did, went up. Is that market manipulation? Absolutely.
But is it rightful?
Is it just the same thing that Wall Street people were doing? Yeah, it's the same thing.
I mean, look. I'm just going to say one thing. In the stock market, if you want to be a participant or you want to play the game of the stock market, you should be ready to lose. If you are investing $20 million against GameStop, and guess what? It goes south and you lose $1.2 billion. Hey, suck it up. It is what it is, sunshine.
Wall Street ain't never losing. The 2008 financial crisis came and they still didn't lose. I'm sorry, but one company, the Lehman Brothers thing, was the only one that crashed. Everything else was survived because I get it.
They have this whole
invest in the company, so the whole world wouldn't go into shit. I get it, but it does put a big point that these companies have way too much power. They have way too much power in our economy.
Ultimately, I think it's the problem is that now you have people on BBC and CNN crying about losing millions, but then you realize it's hey dude, you're playing the game just as much as me.
You're doing the same thing.
The idea of the stock market was invented so that the average person could have a chance at becoming a millionaire.
The stock market was invented so we could all gain from richness,
branch out,
from money, connect the world.
And now they're crying about losing money. What?
Yeah, and then of course some egotistical people take control of it. Same thing as democracy. Democracy works perfectly until
it doesn't.
Communism works perfectly until.
But I do want to believe that what happened in this period, in the last month, about what GameStop is and how it has become, what has occurred there, I hope resonates in the bones of Wall Street.
It's just another thing that everyone's going to talk about for a few months and it's going to go away.
I hope it remains.
Wall Street is going to see this as a lesson learned, and they're going to make sure that it never can happen again. Why? Because these people are egotistical fuckers who don't want to lose their money.
And that sounds about right.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
To them, no, that sounds about correct.
I'm smarter than them, and they're pissed off.
That's essentially what happened. I mean,
if
if you guys want, there's an amazing interview about essentially the guy crying on TV about losing millions, and that to me summarizes perfectly what is America.
Yeah, no, but you lost millions. But in 2008, how many people lost their houses because you invested shitty investments and you started selling debt? How the? I'm sorry, but
that was 12 years ago. Nobody remembers now.
The idea was to sell someone else's debt.
Yeah, okay.
How had that become an idea?
But you know what? On that note, my dear friend, we'll cheers. Thank you guys for joining us.
One more thing. Before this is done, we might have some bonus content.
Ooh.
Because
get out of here,
I'm telling as much as I know, and I'm not a fully scholared political science.
But this is to raise awareness to those issues.
It's to raise awareness to the issues that need to be spoken about, and it needs to be compromised. The left needs to realize to compromise, and the right needs to realize that they need to listen.
Yeah.
The left needs to compromise, right needs to listen. That's simple.
That's about it, ladies and gentlemen. Those are wise words from Andres Garcia Ramirez. Thank you for joining us once again. Thank you for having this amazing podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, do whatever you do, and I'll see you guys in the next podcast. Thank you.